Distorted Thoughts Part 2, Challenging Thinking Errors. So in Distorted Thoughts Part 1, I went through this list that I've put up behind me, and I went through each type of thinking error to say what it was. But in this video, I'm going to talk about how to challenge. So I'm not going to list them all, which is why they're behind me. And we're going to go through each one and how to challenge. So all on, just to say very quickly, I have a bit of a cold, so if I sneeze, cough, anything disgusting in this video, I do apologise. I have a lot of tissues with me, a big pile of horrible ones there. So I'm doing my best, but bear with me if I start to snot everywhere. I'll try not to, obviously. So let's go through those 10, and I'm going to show you, go through those 10, but apply how to challenge on each one. So all or nothing thinking, black and white thinking. An example of this: things aren't perfect, so everything must be terrible. So how do we challenge this? How do we challenge this thought? Well, we could use and instead of or. So instead of saying it's all or nothing, black or white, good or bad, say it could be good and bad. All and nothing. So you could say, I'm a good person and I can be a bad person. Bad person meaning that I can make bad decisions. You know, I'm not always perfect. Nobody is perfect. Look at all the options, consider all the information, and think about the shades of grey. Remember, life isn't in black and white. We see everything in shades of grey. So I would say that's one way to challenge that type. Sorry, it's a few ways there to challenge all or nothing thinking. Number 2, overgeneralising. An example of this: one of my family members was rude to me. This must mean my whole family hates me. Well, just because one person is rude doesn't mean that everyone hates you. I mean, if you're rude to one person, you wouldn't assume that everyone else would be rude or hateful of that person. Ask questions. This is another way to challenge your thoughts. So ask questions. What is the evidence? What evidence do I have to support that all your family hate me? All my family hate me. Am I basing this evidence on one piece? Sorry, am I basing this thought on one bit of evidence or lots of things? Am I actually thinking about the real evidence to support this? Would someone else draw this same conclusion if they were in the same place? Another way to challenge it. Can you challenge your overgeneralising? Do you do this thought? Have you just thought of a new way to challenge it? I'll put some of this information in the description below. Number 3, filtering out the positive. So, for example, you could have 10 wonderful good things happen in one day and one bad thing, and you end up focusing on the one bad or negative thing. So how do we challenge this? Well, if you're focusing on the negative, you'll tend to only experience the negative. Putting out negativity, you'll get negativity back. So try focusing on the positives, filtering out the negatives. The best way to do this would be to write it down on a list. Write down all the positive things that happened to you, and then put the one thing that happened that was bad. And what does that show you? It shows you that actually the majority of things that happen were good. But actually when we put them in our head, we may only just think of the bad, whereas writing them down, we can see. And then compare the good to the bad. Number 4, mind reading. So you're out and about, you look around, and there's a person who is turned around and is laughing at you. So you're sort of basically then thinking, okay, they must be laughing at me. It's all, it's I've obviously done something stupid, I must look stupid, therefore they are laughing at me. And it's all, we'd love to be able to mind read. I'd love to be able to mind read, and I do attempt it in my daily life, but it doesn't work. We can't do it, and there's always other reasons for that person to be laughing. They could be in their own joke with their friend, and I've just turned around at the punchline. They could be having a really, really bad day, and that's the one thing that cheered them up, and it's made them laugh so much because they feel, oh, that's made my day. But you think it's about you. Not you. I think it's about me sometimes as well. Excuse me. Oh, sorry about this cold. Oh. Remind yourself, it isn't possible to make guesses about other people's opinions. I mean, if people started to try and guess my opinions, I'd probably be a little bit annoyed with that. Wouldn't you? I would be. And what evidence do you have that they're laughing? Do you have any evidence that supports what you have just thought? Do you have any evidence to support that that person's laughing at you? Doesn't stop us from doing it though, and it's easier said than done, and I can give you all these things and challenges and da-da-da. Do we do it? Sometimes I don't. But this is a good way to remind me to do it as well. Do I have evidence? Another way to back it up by getting actual evidence. Be a detective. Be your own detective for your own life. Number 5, catastrophizing, or making mountains out of molehills. So an example of this is, I will never have enough money to live comfortably, and I think about this a lot because I don't work and things like that. So I get bit bogged down with the fact that I might, I live with my mum and things like that. I don't have my own house. So then this is another way of beating myself up, more negative stuff, negative. And you don't want negative stuff going through you all the time. So again, try and think about the positive here as well. So okay, you might not ever have enough, at the moment you may not feel you have enough money, but what steps could you do to make sure you have more money? Could you start putting a saving thing? Could you try and apply some goal setting to this challenge to try and kind of lift yourself out a bit, and remind yourself that there are many other potential outcomes. So you might not have enough money yet, but who knows what will happen in a year? Who knows what will happen in 2 years? You just don't know. So therefore, making it a catastrophe before it's already begun is almost setting yourself up to fail. Number 6, emotional reasoning. I feel like a waste of space, therefore I am a waste of space. So how do we challenge this? Recognise that our emotions, just like our thoughts, aren't always based on facts. And what have I said in previously? A thought is a thought, not a fact. And we can do this with our emotions as well. For example, if I wake up feeling very, very depressed and very sad, I could live my whole day like that. Well, there's no point. I'm depressed, I'm sad, But actually, if you start to kind of challenge that, you can really flip your whole point of view into something much more positive. So just because you feel a certain way doesn't mean this is a permanent state. It's a case of riding out that depression or anxiety and saying it's not going to be like this forever. I'm not always going to feel like this, because you don't, right? You have days of good, days of bad, days of happiness, days of sadness, and by kind of saying that because you're in that emotional state you have to be there isn't always accurate, because there are ways of kind of saying, okay, I feel sad, but what can I do to change that? What can I do to change my mood, shift the focus? Labelling. Now, I tend to do this a lot with road rage. I think I said this in Distorted Thoughts Part 1. I will label a person as a bad driver, and I'll never use a swear word at them or anything or gesticulate in any way, shape or form. So if this can happen, so I might label someone as a bad driver if they don't indicate. But I'm sure there are days when I don't indicate, right? And I don't know what's happening to that person. So I may be really angry and feel like they've just completely ruined my day by either cutting me up or not indicating on a roundabout, so I've had to wait there. Oh, they're not coming off a roundabout, fine. And I can get really, really angry. And my mum and Andy will tell you my road rage can be pretty bad. But what's happening with that person? They may have had the worst day ever. They may have lost someone, they may have lost their job, they may just have learnt to drive. You don't know. You're putting all these labels on people when actually you're not really thinking about the bigger picture. I may forget to indicate sometimes, and I may be a bad driver, a not so conscientious driver when I'm in a bad mood or when someone else has upset me. You don't know what's happened to them during their day when you've put this label on them. So that's another way to challenge. Nobody's perfect. We all make mistakes, right? Number 8, fortune telling. So an example of this would be, I'm feeling anxious, so if I'm feeling anxious when I'm out, I'm bound to have a panic attack. Now, you might get this if you suffer from generalised anxiety disorder. It might be the case that you feel if you go out, you're going to have a panic attack, therefore you don't want to go out, and therefore if you have a panic attack at home, you're safe. But this goes towards talking about self-fulfilling prophecies, meaning that the more you say it, the more real it becomes, until it becomes maybe a fact. So you could keep saying to yourself, I'm going to have a panic attack, I'm going to have a panic attack, I'm going to have a panic attack. Therefore, you may be more likely to have a panic attack because you keep saying you're going to have a panic attack. So that's what a self-fulfilling prophecy is. So to challenge this, how do we challenge? Think about all the times you went out when you didn't have a panic attack. Think about the worst possible scenario of you having a panic attack when you're out. What could go wrong? What could you put in place so you take away that worry of the fear of having a panic attack? Because sometimes with anxiety, it's about the anxiety of being anxious about being anxious about having a panic attack, etc. Excuse me. So think about all the other things that could happen when you go outside as well. So other positive things that could happen. So you might get some fresh air, you might bump into someone, you might stumble across a book that you've been looking for, or I don't know, what other positive things can happen when you go out that don't involve having a panic attack? Think about the positives that could happen, not just the negatives. Number 9, personalisation. So you're walking down the road, and this is a common one that has come up a lot in different therapies, especially CBT. Walking down the road, and you see a friend across the road. You call out to them, but they don't respond. They must be mad at me or ignoring me, right? So what is the evidence? Does this person, when you walk down the street, do they usually say hello? Maybe. Maybe they were lost in thought and didn't hear you. Maybe there was a car going across as you waved or shouted. Maybe they are having the worst day and they just want to keep their head down. They don't want to talk to anyone. I know I can do this when I'm in the supermarket and, you know, see someone that I might know, then run round the corner because I think I can't talk to them. I've got to be like on form. I'm not wearing makeup. I'm not so I'll run away from people. And this is kind of a slight extension of what I'm saying, but there are other things that can happen. Fortune telling, predicting what's going to happen in the future. Oh gosh, sorry, personalisation. Right, so yeah, challenge. What is the evidence? Do they usually say hello? Do they hear you? Maybe they were lost in thought. Maybe they are having a bad day. What evidence do I have to support this theory? I do apologise for getting a bit muddled there. It's head cold. So you think they're ignoring you because you're personalising it, you're making it about you, and actually they may be having their own stuff that they're dealing with and they can't even kind of get their head around, and they probably haven't even heard you, but you take it as a personal thing. So how do we do that? We challenge it. Did they hear you? Maybe they were lost in thought, etc. Can you do that? Have you done that thought? Have you done any of these? And kind of these tips are going to be helpful. Whatever the thing, just let me know. And finally, the unreal ideal. So this is comparing yourself. Sorry, an example of this is comparing yourself to friends on Facebook, for example. They're always doing amazing things and I do nothing. But is this accurate? Is Facebook an accurate representation of everyone's lives? I would say no. I would say a lot of people want to present themselves as having fantastic jobs, lives, you know, travel, all of that stuff. And I think a lot of the thing with Facebook is it can look like people are showing off, but actually they're just sharing what's going on. And what I would say is the best way to challenge this, and this really works for me, is don't we want our friends to have the best life they can possibly have? So the really successful career. We want this for people, don't we? We want this for our friends. We want this for our family. We want them to be happy. We want them to be successful. We want them to get what they want out of life, travel, do all of those things. So if we want the best for them, then maybe we should sort of say, yeah, challenge it and say, no, I want the best for that person. I love that person. I care about that person, and they deserve all the happiness in the world. That's one way to do it. But again, remember, do you present yourself differently on social media, on social networking sites? Do you kind of have a good side, all your photos like, photoshopped and things like that? That's how you live your life. Other people live their lives differently, so try and kind of challenge it in that sense and say, look, aren't we all trying to present the best version of us possible? Yeah, and don't we want people to be the best that they can be? Anyway, that's how to challenge them. Please go back over them. I feel this video has been slightly muddled because I'm not feeling 100%, but hopefully we got there in the end. Please comment in the space below. Do you do these thinking errors? Have you learnt new ways to challenge? Have you got any other tips for us on how to challenge? Whatever your thoughts, whatever you want to say, please put it in the space below. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you next time. Take care, guys. Bye.